Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our live Q&A webinar with Fishbowl and QuickBooks expert, Jeanne Tarazevtis.
Hi, folks. I'm waiting for the first question. Okay, we have a closed PO that can't be exported to QuickBooks. What should we do? So I'm assuming that there's some kind of error message. And the most common error message for that would be that we have a closing date password on. So how do I make this person? Can you enable sound for Sophia? Sophia?
All right, Sophia, you're unmuted.
Oh, okay.
Sophia, do you get
yes.
an error message that says something about it can't find item receipts?
We get an error message saying the PO number is duplicate. I think.
You're using QuickBooks Online.
Yes, I use QuickBooks Online and Fishbowl transfer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I want you to do is go to QuickBooks Online and find that PO number and put a dash one or something on it so it's different, and then your PO will export.
Okay, let me do. I was assuming, yeah, I was thinking that, but I want to confirm with you first before I go ahead to touch anything. Thank you, Jeanne. Yeah, in my
Okay.
QuickBooks.
All right. So here we have the next question is, why do not payments don't tie to invoices in QuickBooks? And the answer to that is, what we have here is when we bring a payment in from e-commerce, or we take a payment in Fishbowl, the payment will go across to QuickBooks on the next export, okay? And the invoice doesn't come across to QuickBooks until it's been shipped. So we have a couple module options where we can change how things work. So it's not on the sales order module options, it's in the accounting module options. So right here, we can hold the payment in Fishbowl until it's been shipped, at which point in time you're going to get a sales receipt in QuickBooks, so you don't have to match your payments with your invoices manually. But the downside to that is the payment gets dated as the same day it's shipped and not the day the payment was actually received. So that creates some challenges for reconciling our merchant service deposits. Okay. And what you can do is you can enable your accountant tools. So in the Accountant Center, there is an application where you can fix unapplied payments and credits. And so you can just use this tool to quickly match up your payments and your invoices. Okay? Does that work? Okay. Does that answer your question, Nicole? Okay. And then the next one, why do drop shipments and Fishbowl separate into different invoices for products and shipping in QuickBooks? We had a multiple line order with several back orders, and the order came across with the first shipment and its original sales order, and the next shipment should have been with a -1 but did not. Okay. All right, so that's two different questions, and somebody is trying to dial me on my phone. Okay, so that's drop. Okay, so the product and shipping, if you probably didn't have your shipping set up as the right part type, it needs to be a shipping part type, and it also helps to have your module options set to go ahead and fulfill your shipping line items when you ship. So if I come here to sales order, and I come over here to tools module options, and then shipping, and that's not the right one. They got shipping module options in 2 separate places. So right here, you have fulfill shipping line items on ship. So if you've got a shipping type item on your dropship sales order and you receive it from the vendor, then it will go ahead and fulfill the sales order. And when you have this little guy checked, it'll also fulfill the shipping line item. You'll only get 1 invoice. Okay. So next question, Stephanie. We had a multiple line order with several back orders, and the order came across with the first shipment and the original sales order, and the next shipment should have been with a -1, but was not. Guess what? They changed the module options a couple of releases ago. So over here under accounting, tools module options, we have here, this whole thing, it used to have a choice of, you know, either let it be the QuickBooks invoice number, let QuickBooks do it, or let the sales order, or beat the sales order number. Well, they changed it to give us a third option, which is the Fishbowl sales order invoice number. So QuickBooks, if you select QuickBooks number, you get an auto-generated number, it's sequential in QuickBooks. If you pick Fishbowl sales order number, you will not get the -1. You will just get the same sales order number over and over again without the -1, -2, -3. So you'll have duplicate invoice numbers. And if you pick the Fishbowl shipment number, then you will get the -1 and -2. So odds are that, you know, we took this release and it just, you didn't know to change this module option, okay? Okay, Stephanie, does that answer the question? I hope so.
She is unmuted.
Okay.
Oh, hi. Yes, Stephanie, you did answer.
All right. So now we're going for Deborah. We send parts out for different types of processes. For example, we send part A out and bring it back as A1. We often receive A1 back and use the parts before the invoice comes in. When trying to reconcile the PO, invoice pricing can't be applied any way around this. Okay, so I have a video on this, but what I do, you know, this is kind of a 2-part question that this is really about it's being used up. So if I have a question for Deborah. Can you unmute Deborah?
Hello.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi.
Are you using? I'm good.
I'm sorry. Am I using?
All right. I'm going to show you. So, are you using this outsource type up here?
Unfortunately, I can't find. Oh, there's your screen. Sorry. Am I using? Okay, we're
This
under
outsource type on your purchase. When you send A out for work, do you use this outsourced function?
I don't know. I'm asking this question on behalf of the person in charge of purchasing. I'm in charge of just the QuickBooks end, and that's where I'm getting, you know, hit with the issue of trying to reconcile the invoice. So I am going to take notes and.
Okay.
So I should start the outsourced.
If we're doing that, well, this works some of the time. So you can send this outsourced and have it return as whatever it's going to be, and it'll add that cost. So it'll take the base cost of the 1022 and add the cost of the outside process for total cost, and that creates a costing layer for you. The other methodology to this is to send the part outsourced, have a separate line, which is the vendor service, and then you're using a manufacturing order to roll up the cost of the base part plus the service. So, but, you know, and I don't think this is the fact that the process is what's keeping you from reconciling. So what I do when I have a little, what we hope are small differences, I create a part, and it helps if I can type, called purchasing variance, and I have it mapped to accounts over in QuickBooks as purchasing variance. It is a shipping type part number, and when I come in here to reconcile, and I'm going to pretend I've got the big caution sign, I can just come in here and I can add that part as if I were landing cost or adding a special piece to it. And the idea behind my purchasing variance is it should be small amounts, okay? So does that make your life easier? If it's huge, it's a huge difference, then we undo the transaction and redo it. But if it's little money, I use this purchasing variance part. Okay? I hope.
It looks
All
like
right.
she self-muted.
Okay. So every month we are seeing a large variance between Fishbowl and QBO for inventory. Can you explain some of the reasons that might occur? Well, the number one, okay, when I have somebody call me up and Fishbowl and QuickBooks are not matching, the first thing I do is check mapping. And so I check the mapping for the default mappings, and I check the mapping on individual part numbers in Fishbowl first. But because it's QBO, the mapping, the initial mapping that came from Fishbowl becomes the mapping on the QBO service part. So QBO's got their own separate set of matching. So if I find a mistake in Fishbowl, I need to correct the mistake in QuickBooks Online as well. The next reason it might happen is dates. You know, dates are really important if we're forward dating and back dating. And then there's another issue, and that is you really can't run an inventory valuation report for that is 100% accurate for any other moment than now. Okay? So one of the things I do with all of my customers is I come in here to set up schedule. All right. And I set up to run every day a daily valuation report to run in the evening and save to CSV. So I always have that detailed value for any given day. The other thing that can happen is if we don't have this report for any given day, we come in here and we think we can run a report for inventory. This is my favorite, on hand by date, okay? And it seems like it should work. And sometimes it's close, but it's never actually the same as it would have been on the day it happened. So sometimes you might be just using the wrong report to compare. And, you know, so then, so do you think I've touched on some of them?
Who is that for?
That is John Kim.
All right, John's unmuted.
Yes. Hi.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeanne. Yeah, we do the scheduled reports. We actually use the inventory valuation summary. Is that going to be a useful report besides the on hand by date?
So the on hand by date doesn't work. So you have to schedule your report, and it doesn't matter which one you schedule. I always use the valuation by account because it has all the different costing methods on one report.
Oh, wow, okay. Can you touch on the dates part? I think that's where our problem lies. That we've checked the mapping, we definitely run a schedule report, but I think it has to do something with dates. Can you kind of explain what you meant by that?
Okay, in QBO it should be easier, or it should be less volatile than QuickBooks Desktop, because you do have an accrual account. It's called holding,
Yeah.
but you have an accrual account. So in general, when I go to reconcile, I want my date. Here's I put the bill number, and I want my date to be the receive date. So obviously this is a demo file, November 4th, 2016. And I want to match up these dates, okay? And people usually come back to me with, oh no, we won't get the right date to pay the bill. Well, you've got a separate field in QuickBooks for due date. And most people, unless you've got cash discounts happening, you just really kind of pay your bills on the closest Friday, right, to when it's due. Yeah. So QuickBooks is highly date sensitive and Fishbowl's not. So when you have those dates as a problem, okay, it should be less so in QuickBooks Online, but I have seen where it doesn't work real well when you don't have them together. And then the other thing I found, I had a guy who had $700,000 more in QuickBooks than he had in Fishbowl. And the issue was his payables person got all excited and went ahead and reconciled a bunch of bills without receiving them. So this guy hasn't been received yet, and I can put my bill date in just for today. Oops, accountants were always at least a month behind, right? So now this bill will go over to QuickBooks and increase the value of my inventory by $12 when I don't have the inventory in Fishbowl. So there's a possibility that that's happening.
Yeah. I mean, we're off maybe 80 to 100 every month. We switched over to average costing this month. It seems smaller, but it's still up there. And I'm pretty sure the payables person, you know, we walked through the process with her actually just yesterday. She's definitely only reconciling what's been received. So.
Okay. Well, you know, it's in which case I'm going to say it's probably mapping if it's that big and consistent.
Okay.
So because it's QBO, you have to get the mapping right in Fishbowl, and then you have to go back to QBO and make the mappings all right in QBO.
Okay. Does PPV play a part in any of this when we're on standard? When I run the inventory valuation, will it account for?
Well, how did you change PPV over to average cost?
Fishbowl kind of helped us set that up.
Okay, so I have a great report. So the PPV is an import and export that you can use to update. I use the PPV in order to review the individual mappings. Okay, it's the fastest and quickest way. But then if you find mistakes here, you need to go change them in QBO.
Okay.
So if you haven't taken advantage of the free Fishbowl support hour, I invite you to come and I can look at it for you. Okay?
No, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. All right. So Nancy Brosnan should be a Stephanie. Nancy can't hear as of 10:07. Stephanie, can you do anything to help her out?
I can try, yes.
Okay. We are integrating our service desk with Fishbowl. We will send a global ledger code with our sales orders CSV for import to Fishbowl. We've created a custom field for global ledger code on sales orders. Can we send that sales order custom global ledger code to QuickBooks? Okay, Michael. Only if it lands in the notes field. But I have seen Fishbowl, at least on QBO, do a custom change to the export from Fishbowl to QuickBooks. That didn't used to be the case, but sometime in the last year or so, they started doing things like that. So if you reach out to Fishbowl and ask for the custom integrations people, then there's a good chance that they can make that code change for you and have it go across. If you don't want to pay, you don't want to go that route, then instead of landing it in a custom field, I would land it in a notes field that's going to go across anyway. If we're on Quick, so right here under accounting, tools, module options, attach order item notes to QuickBooks export or memo field, and you can get it over there without having to ask Fishbowl for a custom modification.
I see.
All right.
When you said the custom integrations people, is that the same as the plugins development department?
I think they're separate.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but we could always chat with Fishbowl and ask them which one. You know, odds are you're not going to get through with them on the first call. You're going to have to start with the first line of support. Hey, they're much better. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, Sally, Bota. Is there a way to make line items export to QuickBooks with the FB item number instead of the FB item? Yes, ma'am, there is. So you're not going to get rid of FB underscore item. That's going to stay. But right here in my module options, it says here under QuickBooks, and we have set the invoice custom other one field to be number, and the other two fields to be unit of measure abbreviation. So I set them up this way, and then I uncheck these two, and then over in QuickBooks, okay, we are going to create a template so all right, so this one doesn't have it, but if I was going to go here, I was going to modify my template. Then what I do is I have put other one right here. That is the other one field. And this one is the unit other two field. And so when I go to print that, come back here. Preview. The FB item disappears from the invoice that the customer sees because I've gone into the template and changed it. So just to kind of put that all together, we go here to list and we go to template, and the one that says Fishbowl product number, we edit that, and we come over here to additional customization. and we come over here to columns. And here's where I pull my other one as product, and my other two is unit of measure. And then this row controls what I see on the screen. This row controls what's print, AKA what my customer sees on a printer and email. And so this is the FB_item coming from Fishbowl. So I have to see it on screen, but I uncheck the print box so it doesn't print on my invoice. All right. And I have a YouTube video on how to make a pretty QuickBooks invoice without FB_item. Okay. Next, we will move.
We're not using QBO. Does that matter?
This is QBD.
Okay.
On QBO, you don't have that issue. In QBO, what happens is Fishbowl creates a service part number that matches, that is the Fishbowl part number, and it does not use FB_item because QBO is a whole different thing. This is QBD I just showed you.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not that familiar with the QuickBooks side of it.
Okay.
What I'm trying to find out is, can we use QuickBooks to analyze the items rather than having them look at it as Fishbowl item?
Okay, so your concern is not about whether or not it's pretty. Your concern is, by analyze, you mean sales report?
If we scrap something, you know, we can't look at at what we have, the value of what we scrapped of a particular item. It's like a lump. Does that make sense?
Okay. The entire way Fishbowl and QuickBooks works together is that all that information is supposed to be is in Fishbowl and it doesn't go to QuickBooks, particularly. But I have a set of reports that I've put together for the accountants in us, and I'm going to have everything here as all because of the, so here's my inventory adjustments report, and I can filter this for individual parts. I can filter it for different date ranges, et cetera, and so on. So I can map it to the accounts I'm looking for. But no, you're not going to do that kind of analysis on QuickBooks side. It's going to be on the Fishbowl side.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. Herzog Surgical would like you, when you are ready. Stephanie Hammer. So can we let, okay.
Hi,
so,
Jeanne, it is Stephanie Hammer.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi. So our question is, we did kind of type it in the little box, but what happened is we had a purchase order with a ship to and a sales order with a ship to, but they did not take. So the sales order, remind me, sales order was correct. The purchase order ship to was wrong. And we don't know if the sales order line, because it was defined as a drop ship type, if that relates to any of this. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, so when it's a drop ship type, it automatically creates a purchase order, and the ship to address on the purchase order is no longer to you as a company, it is to that customer's shipping address.
Is that right? We have one other person with me.
Yeah, before this happened, it automatically transferred the sales order shipping address to the purchase order. But
now that's what it's supposed to do.
Didn't, correct. But in this case, it didn't do that. It took, I don't know where it pulled that incorrect ship to address on the purchase order.
I I can't imagine where it would have gotten a different address unless somebody maybe changed it. Usually the dropship purchase orders are locked down though.
No, well, yes, it was. It's always been. But in this particular case, I actually printed, and it was the purchase order pulled some other shipping address. Is there any way we can check it or address it or fix it?
I think isn't it grayed out when you go to it?
What is graded out?
Okay, so what you're gonna have to do to fix it, and I did this recently, is go to the sales order, change that item on the sales order from dropship to just a regular sale. That'll break the link between the sales order and the purchase order, and then you can edit the purchase order.
We did that. Okay, we did that to fix the problem, but I'm leery that this might happen in the future. And this has never happened before.
Yeah, this is beyond what I can help you do. I'd have to see it, and there's too many people involved and things that might have changed between 1 minute and another. I think let's hope it's just a fluke and it happens again. I call Fishbowl support right away. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So, are we about ready for our guests? We're halfway through or so. I'd like to introduce you to Russ Graff. He's with NetStock, and he's going to give a little 10-minute presentation on NetStock and why that might be interesting. Okay?
Excellent. Thanks, Jeanne. I think Stephanie has my deck. There we go. So yeah, I just want to go through a couple of slides. I won't burden you with an actual live demo of the product. Happy to do that, and I'll have my contact information at the end. But thanks again, Jeanne and her team to give me this opportunity. We've been working together for a couple of years at least now. And we have a number of mutual accounts. I think we're up to 7 or 8 different Fishbowl users that are using the NetStock application. So, I'm a former ERP partner reseller. So first of all, I've been listening in the last 20, 30 minutes, and kudos to Jeanne. I hope all of you understand what a valuable resource she is to have that level of experience and knowledge of a product, multiple products, and be able to point directly to what's going on and how to fix it, and all that is really impressive. I'm impressed, Jeanne. That's great. Because I've been in your shoes, so I know what that takes. So NetStock is a cloud application that is designed to do one main thing, and that is to balance your levels of inventory. So it's cloud app, monthly subscription, very affordable, really easy to implement and use, and it solves a really major problem. So next slide, Stephanie. Just a quick brief, NetStock as the company has been around about 10 years now. This is our 10th birthday. We have about 1,530, I think was the last count, firms across the globe using our application. Over 820 or so are in North America. So we're very heavily penetrated in the market in those 10 years. We've had tremendous success. We're adding about 25 new customers a month. I think we're by far the largest installed inventory demand planning tool in the world and in the country. So lots of users managing a ton of inventory every day using our application. So it's tried and true and bulletproof and tested, industrial strength. Next, please. So the problem we solve, and this was a couple of fill-ins here. Thank you. Just go ahead and clear it in and fill it in. Thank you. So the problem we solve is that issue of balancing inventory, right? Every inventory-based company, whether you're a distributor, manufacturer, retailer, or e-tailer, you have the challenge of having enough inventory but not too much, and those are sometimes competing interests. And you've got buyers and planners and purchasers in the organization, who some of you I think are on this call, who have to battle those competing interests. It's a very stressful position, right? You're in the middle, getting yelled at by the C-level folks sometimes for having too much inventory on the books and giving arbitrary numbers. I need you to cut 10% or 20% out of our inventory. Then you got sales folks on the other side yelling at you because they couldn't complete a sale because you're out of a piece of stock that cost them a sale. So very challenging position, and unfortunately don't have the right tools to help solve that problem. And when you don't solve the problem, again, if you sell out of a product, you not only have a chance to lose that sale, but you may lose the customer altogether if they have a good experience with a competitor. So it's really important to not do that, but you can't solve that problem by overbuying, because that ties up a bunch of cash in your warehouse that you can't afford to have gathering dust for you. Should be useful elsewhere in the business to drive other profit generating activities. And it has actual hard carrying costs associated with it. Things like taxes and insurance. It can, takes up space in the warehouse, which you pay rent for. It can be obsoleted or broken, and now it's useless to you, and so now you're losing value. So a lot of downsides to having too much inventory. So you have to really be smart about where you build up that stock to meet the demand of your customers or to meet the demand of your production schedules, but no more than that. Okay, so next slide, please. And so the folks at NetStock have been around a long time, and so we see this as a complementary addition to what Fishbowl does. A lot of times when you think about inventory management as a broad term, what our minds really often go to is what we would call inventory control. It's managing the transactions of the physical product, the ins and the outs, pick, pack, ship, hopefully doing physical counts and hopefully cycle counting of your more important items, and then maybe leveraging barcode tools and devices and so forth to help you capture that data timely and accurately. All absolutely necessary and a great function for to handle within your organization to manage that inventory. And now you know what you have and where you have it, but it doesn't tell you is it the right stuff. And so that's the flip side of the inventory management coin that we would call inventory replenishment. Sometimes we call it inventory optimization or demand planning. You'll hear similar terms like that. And that's the piece that NetStock addresses. So it goes hand in glove with a product like Fishbowl that does a great job of capturing all the transactions and giving you accuracy in the data. And now we take that data and do the analytics against it and say, if I forecast future demand and I know what it takes for my suppliers to deliver, what the actual lead times are, help me understand what's going on in my inventory, where I have issues, and now I can solve the other side of the coin. So next slide, please. So that's kind of where it fits into the grand scheme of things. And so when our team built the application 10 years ago, after 20, 30 years of prior experience in very large organizations, multinational corporations whose names you would recognize, Grainger, Toyota, et cetera, that's the background of our team. And they said, okay, now middle market, small, medium-sized businesses have just as much complexity in their supply chain now as the big guys have always had, but they don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the finance, the budget, the experience, the academic background, if you will, to really address it. And they certainly don't have the technology tool. So let's give them something that's easy to use, that really hones in on two key questions. What needs my attention? In other words, what's gone wrong? If I got 1,000 SKUs or 5,000 SKUs in my inventory, I can't look at all those every day. Show me the 5 or 10 that are most out of whack today, that are most going to impact my profitability, and let me focus my energy and my attention there. And then based on all the analytics of what's gone wrong and what I need to do, what do I need to order today to fulfill that balancing act that I have to get to? And so we do that through product importance or classification. So we rank all the items not only in value, a typical ABC analysis, but we also rank them in speed of movement, velocity, in a high, medium, low. And I'll show you a quick screenshot of that in a second. And then that helps us drive proper investment policies and service levels and targets and metrics so that we don't paint every item with the same broad brush, but now again, we can target items and focus energies and really have some strategy behind how we manage the inventory. And of course, all that is driven by a forecasting engine, which NetStock has some 15 different algorithms built into it that look at historical data, match that against what happens in the future, and test those forecasts constantly, and applies the best fitting forecast to that future demand over time over the next 12 months. So it's all time phased and really understands at any snapshot point in time, what is my inventory going to look like based on replenishment orders, performance of my suppliers, lead times, forecasted demand, actual demand, and what does that look like now? I mean, it's an incredible amount of number crunching and analytics that we're doing every single night with the data. Next screen, please, Stephanie. And the way that looks is just real quickly. So every night we install a little connector, an integration piece. Takes a few minutes to install and get you your first dashboard. And every night on a scheduled basis, 2 in the morning, something like that, maybe after you do backups or everybody's clocked off the system, whatever it might be, though you don't have to be off. We'll go grab all that data, compress it, encrypt it. So inventory files, histories, purchase history, sales histories, open orders, all that stuff gets compressed and sent up into the NetStock cloud, where we do all of our analysis, and all that disparate data from all those different tables and files in the ERP and in Fishbowl now are presented back to you as actionable information in a browser. So any browser, any device, anytime, anywhere, you could be on your iPad or your iPhone or computer or laptop at home before you even come into the office. If you want to do some work, take a look at some things, it's all there browser based, and it presents a dashboard to you that really shows you what's going on in the health of your inventory. So a couple quick screenshots just to give you a feel for it, and then I'll let you get back to the details. So next screen, please. I'm sorry, next screen. Oh, okay, this is not the latest deck stuff, but that's fine. So we'll get you some other information at another time, but I wanted you to get a feel for what the onboarding process looks like. Since we've done so many and we have hundreds, as I mentioned, over 800 in North America, we've got a very mature, refined methodology for deploying the application. And so it's really works well. It's all done remotely. So all the stuff that we're all having to deal with now with working from home and all that kind of stuff, that's absolutely native and natural to us. We've been doing business this way since the beginning 10 years ago. So we do a really nice job of installing the software, getting that first test dashboard, refining the data with you, and then going through a training and use case and getting you up and running very quickly. I think the next slide adds to this and talks about timelines. Yeah, so I've seen it go in as quickly as 2 weeks. I think typically is more like 4 weeks for most distribution companies. If you're doing manufacturing and there's bills of materials and other complexity involved, it may go to 6 weeks or maybe 8 weeks, depending on where you are in your implementation of Fishbowl as well. But very rapidly deployed, very fast value back to you in terms of ROI and so forth. So let's see if there's another screen here or not. That may be, yeah, I think that's the end. So I appreciate your time. Just wanted to give you a quick feel for where NetStock fits as a demand planning replenishment tool that really fits hand in glove with Fishbowl. We've got a great relationship with Terabytes. We've got a great relationship with Fishbowl. We're in the process of getting on their marketplace now. Recently did a podcast with the Fishbowl folks. So we're joined at the hip, and we're a great partner and really looking forward to adding many dozens and hundreds of Fishbowl customers to the NetStock family over the next few years. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Jeanne and Stephanie. They know how to get a hold of me, and be happy to have a more detailed conversation about your situation and provide a live demo and so forth. So thanks again for your time, and I'll turn it back over to the Fishbowl expert.
Okay, I'm back. So I'm assuming that everything's in the right place. While we were on break, my son, who's working from home, my home, because his home's smaller, let in my new office mate, and hopefully she won't walk across the keyboard. She's a cat. So, Sophia Kaufman, all right, asked if there's a difference between the actual bill and what was the purchase order that was closed in Fishbowl. How do we fix that in QBO? So the first part of my answer is we should be taking the real bill and reconciling it here on this screen so that doesn't happen. But my next answer is, if it gets to QBO with the wrong dollar amount, please do not change the amount that's on the face of the bill. Go ahead and add a little account line at the bottom and plus or minus the difference to a purchasing variance or cost of goods sold but please don't change the dollar amount going to inventory, because that'll create an imbalance between Fishbowl and QuickBooks. Okay? Okay. Marla, I'm not 100% sure how to answer your question here. I don't know if you're doing, this is about email addresses and the customer name and the open balance report per client. And can you unmute Marla?
She is unmuted.
Marla, so is this a Fishbowl report? Is this a QuickBooks report? Is this? Okay. Well, Marla's an active client, so I'll reach back. I think I'll skip over this and reach back to her a little later. When a customer makes, this is for Deborah Gorman. When a customer makes a partial payment on an open sales order that wouldn't be in QuickBooks yet, how can I track this in Fishbowl on the sales order? So my question here would be, all right, are these terms, is this a partial payment on, okay. It all depends on whether or not you're selling on terms. If you're selling on terms, I tend to not want to have the payment in Fishbowl, but I'm going to go right here. If I've got a partial payment on a sales order, I can go right here and I can tell it I took a payment, okay? And that will be the recording of the payment that goes over to QuickBooks, okay? If you've already recorded in QuickBooks, you know, you might want to just put a memo line saying, here, memo line, you know, a comment or a line item note or a memo saying, you know, client has paid a deposit on this of X number of dollars. So, because you don't want to record your payments 2 times, once in QuickBooks and once in Fishbowl. You'll double up your payments in QuickBooks. Does that answer your question, Deborah?
She is muted on her end, but she is unmuted on ours.
Okay. Well, I hope so.
I'm sorry, I was muted on my end. I just heard your helper tell me that. Yes, that's completely, and I'm guessing the same would work. Sometimes we have very large POs and we just ship as inventory is available and without terms, people that, you know, pay before shipment. So sometimes the salesman wants to know what's been paid, what's not been paid, and then he doesn't have to call me to look on QuickBooks.
Okay, so we do have this one cute little thing here that says check balance, and that'll tell you how much they owe in QuickBooks as a grand total. So are we selling on terms, or is this, you know, a deposit and then terms, or?
These are our non-term clients, different clients that are kind of special orders. So
okay.
Again, we were 50% down.
Then I would take, in that case, if they're special orders and they're not terms, I would go ahead and record the payment in Fishbowl, not in QuickBooks.
Excellent.
Because Fishbowl will push the payment to QuickBooks. All right?
Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. So let's move on to Sally again. What advice can you give a small company considering moving away from Fishbowl to an ERP system? All right. Well, Fishbowl is an ERP system. You know, it's a really good system. It makes a lot of people happy. I would think that you would, because changing systems is expensive and painful. I would imagine that you'd want to instead review how you're using Fishbowl and where, if Fishbowl's not balancing and managing your inventory quite right, then I would be looking at where in my process is it broken and try fixing it first. Okay?
we're currently using multiple systems to record all the information that we need. We use FileMaker for a database and Fishbowl for inventory, and are looking for something that would allow us to integrate the product information that we need to track with the inventory and documentation and things like that.
Okay, so FileMakers, tell me what business you're in.
We're a food wholesaler.
A food wholesaler. And what do you need to track? The Fishbowl doesn't track. Fishbowl does lots. It does expiration dates. It does.
So we haven't. So okay, right now we're using FileMaker as a database. So the quality information about each lot would go in there because there isn't a place to record.
Oh, sure there is.
Information to a lot in Fishbowl.
Sure there is. Okay. Do I have it enabled? I don't. Drat. We have this wonderful thing called a Dropbox integration. And when you have the Dropbox integration enabled, you can connect all that data to the transaction.
So you can connect files to a collection of inventory when you receive it?
Uh-huh. It's an $800 add-on to Fishbowl.
Okay. And do you have information about that on your very excellent blog?
I have never blogged about Dropbox, but you know, we're on COVID time, so I'm getting a lot more content out there.
Okay, thank you so much for the
that blog
answer.
will be coming soon.
Pardon?
Oh, I'm saying that
Okay.
blog can definitely be coming soon, so that's a good idea.
Okay. So here we go. Man, I'm going to Nancy Brosnan. If the PO is set up in the customer and not the specific job, what will happen to the reporting in QuickBooks? When our partially fulfilled sales orders, okay. Okay, so if I've gone through my purchase order, and just for those people who might not know, I can tie my sales order to a name or a job. So a job in QuickBooks is a sub-customer of the name, and Fishbowl supports that as well. So if it's sitting here at the top level customer job, then the dollars are going to go to the top level. You'd have to move them down to the job level, Nancy. Did I answer the right question? I hope. All right, moving on to Ryan Christopher. When our partially fulfilled sales orders are exported, they split into smaller invoices in QuickBooks. This causes us all sorts of reconciling issues, so we made the selection, okay, keep the sales orders from exporting until they are completely fulfilled, but that only randomly works and seems to quit working sometimes. Is this a known issue? I didn't know there was a way to keep sales orders from being exported until they're completely fulfilled. So let's go look at our module options. Because that might be a new one on me. All right, I don't see that as an option. In accounting, I have the module options to keep the payments in Fishbowl until it's fulfilled. So you stumped me. Ryan?
Yes, this is Ryan. So yeah, I think it's that module option under the accounting integration one that you were looking at. There's an option in there that holds everything. It doesn't send the invoice or the payment to QuickBooks until it's all fulfilled. And then so that, you know, you don't, if we've got payments that are coming in that we're collecting in QuickBooks, you know, through our bank integrations and things like that, they'll match, they hold it until they match up. But every now and then, and it sometimes works, and then all of a sudden it'll stop working, even though the selection is made. We go in there and unselect it, select it again, and then sometimes it starts working again, but then it'll stop working, and you know, so we get all these, we call them a split invoice, and it causes us all kinds of headaches. And
Okay.
so I just didn't know if that was
This
something.
This is holding the payment, not holding the whole sales order. So if I have a partial sales order, it's going to come across. But you know what you can do. And I'm going to have my next webinar is going to be all about payments. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But especially for high volume e-commerce, I recommend creating a mapping change for my payments. So I can come here and I can individually map what account each of these payment types are going to. All right.
Okay.
So when I've got my credit card clearing account is much easier to deal with than undeposited funds. And so, you know, you kind of need, if you're having kind of a bank feed issue versus your payments issues in Fishbowl, you know, we're going to, if you use this credit card clearing account, you have a much easier time reconciling and balancing out your merchant services than using undeposited funds. Undeposited funds is just awkward to work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what?
Okay.
I think that you're right now as I think about it. I don't do the accounting. I'm on here because our accountants are always yelling at me at this. It might be that the payments are being split as they come over. And then there's multiple small payments that they have a hard time reconciling to the big payment that's coming from the bank account. And
okay,
so,
well, have them attend my next webinar, or, you know, actually pay me to help them out.
yeah, well, that's not a bad idea. Maybe we need to do that.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, all right, Sally's telling me they're not using QBO, which is fine. Hopefully you're using I mean, I'm not the world's biggest fan of QuickBooks Online, as anybody who knows me knows. This is a clarification of a question we already did. Oh, okay, Stephanie. What does QBO stand for and what does QBD stand for? I'm sorry, I'm using jargon. Okay, so this is QuickBooks Enterprise, and this is very similar to QuickBooks Pro and Premier. It's our desktop version, so we call those QBD, all right? QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Online is a completely different product made by QuickBooks, and we call that QBO. And in my opinion, about the only thing that these two programs have in common is the logo. They're completely different, written completely different way. They have different properties, and you know, is a completely different enterprise. And so there's also a completely different integration between Fishbowl and QBO as between Fishbowl and QBD. And one of these days, I'm going to write down the differences. Okay? Does that help? I hope. Explain? All right. Could you please review your Fishbowl accounting report package? Reports included. Okay. I'm back to Fishbowl. I'm over here under reports. Okay. My package includes inventory adjustments, all my purchase transactions, okay, and this is my demo file. But I'm going to get rid of the detail on this one. But what this does is it summarizes things based upon the general ledger account, which is something you can't get in standard Fishbowl reports. So I have these 4 reports: adjustments, purchases, sales orders, and work orders, that allow you to roll forward and roll back. Okay. We have an inventory valuation by location groups for FIFO. Standard Fishbowl comes with average and standard, but not with FIFO. My inventory valuation by account I use because we modified this one. It's essentially Fishbowl's report, except we show the unit cost and the quantity on hand, which is, essentially basic thing that, everybody needs. And then we have a detailed transaction sales tax report and a detailed receiving report, which is not loaded in here yet. And then we also have what I think is just, I have this, we've changed the costing layers with Transaction Source, and we have put in hyperlinks to the transaction that created each costing layer. And I've also thrown in a column for standard cost and versus the cost that the costing layer cost, to do difference so the people who are running standard costs can see how they're doing, and go through and revise their standard cost once a year to actual. And I have another report that does payments. Here we go. There's my payments transactions, and this will be by general ledger account as well. All right. And so, and all that for only $500. Did I do that well, Jeffrey?
Yes, you did. Maybe you can explain a little bit more about the payment transaction report.
Okay, we have these are payments that are taken in Fishbowl, and we have the payment type here. And if I had my payment types all set up in settings, but back when I did these transactions, then it would go into the different buckets. So, for example, if I have PayPal, PayPal's in its essence a bank account. So it'll show me how many dollars were taken from PayPal, how many dollars are going into my merchant services clearing account, how many dollars are going into my bank. If I had a wire transfer, those are all separate transactions.
Okay.
Okay. So you can put, and it would be for the period.
Thank you.
All right.
And this reports package is on our website in the shop center page if you are interested in purchasing that.
Okay. I have a question for NetStock, and it's curious to know how NetStock handles seasonal items, e.g. holiday items. I know they do. I know they have algorithms so that you can get in your ordering from the Far East because you're going to be down for CAT. We will take this question and we will send it all off to Mr. Russ so he can get back to you individually, okay? How do you delete a sales order? The button seems to have disappeared. So if I'm over here in sales order, and I am an issued sales order, the button, okay, there is no delete button. If I unissue my sales order, then I do have a delete button, okay? Sophia Kaufman, which account I should put in? I'm assuming that that is an account. Show me in QBO. All right, so I'm assuming that's a follow-up to the question about how do you do. What I would do is I would have an account, and I'd create the account that said purchasing variance, and that's where I would put in QBO. That's also where I would put it in QuickBooks Desktop, and I would normally put it in as a cost of goods sold. Okay, so Marla's finally clarified. When sending a statement from QuickBooks, I imagine that this is a template moment, and I'll get back to you individually, Marla. Yeah, I do now.
Can you hear me? Oh,
yeah.
Good. So that's great. Maybe I could help you out. When we're sending out statements, let's say month-end statements or even individual statements, so you go into customer and you pull up create statement. In the subject line, it doesn't include the customer's name. There's got to be a generic field that I could be able to add possibly to the template so that it says the customer name as well in it.
Okay. So this is a standard statement. So you're trying to get the customer's name in the subject line?
Yes. If you want to just generate a statement, it'll be easier for you to see what I'm talking about. Maybe. So let's just start. Let's just go to one account that has a balance, and let's just pretend. No, I actually need you to call up the email. So there is a balance there. You know, that's a bad example. It may not generate. But you want to email. I want you to go to the email screen. Okay, that will work if there's such a balance. So let's create a statement, and then I would like you to hit email, and then it's going to populate another screen.
Okay, so
you could go all the way down.
I never create this from here. I always go to the other one. So
it's okay. It's the same difference. It's right.
Create statement.
It's right there. Yeah.
Okay.
So now go email, and what I'm asking is, okay, put your own email address there if you don't mind for a moment.
Okay.
So let me see what comes up there because maybe it's more. If you don't have emailing set up on your screen, it's going to be difficult. Let's see what comes up. Hang on. Okay, so right here, you see where it says statement subject, statement from terabyte, average cost. How can I add a field that it will, instead of it saying only in the body, dear customer, I want it to read the customer's name, and I want it to basically say statement, Jeanne, here's a statement from terabyte. Marla, here's your statement. So the customer name is in the subject. What happens is the customer sometimes replies, and it doesn't attach anything, and you don't know who that customer is. And when you send out a bulk emailing for your monthly statements, say I send out 100 people, I need a copy, but I have no clue who they are.
You know what? I'm going to have to take that to a higher authority because we have over here, okay, file, this is where we can change the subject, and that looks like it's a static subject line. So we'd have to find some way to make that a wild card to bring in the customer name. But this is what controls what's on there.
Yeah, because you cannot do that when you have a bulk email in your 400, in there. It won't change. Obviously, it has to read the customer's name per send.
Okay, so I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. It's and on the same topic of the email linking, say, get out of that for a moment. Say you go to a customer that you have that has a balance. So let's say you want to, so now if you right click on that there, or you go to the customers, if you go all the way to the balance, open balance, Allen's Raceway, go right to the bottom, all the way to the bottom. No, go to Allen's, wherever you were, it doesn't matter who. Highlight your thing, right click on that, right click, and go all the way to the bottom. Open balance, and now you generate that report. Go click that, please.
Okay.
So now I want Alan to get this report. But when you go email here, it doesn't read the customer file that you just selected and generated this report from. That is the pain.
No.
So go ahead, or you could do it as a PDF, email, whatever it is.
Okay. So when it's not expecting you to send this to your customer, but I get why it's a pain.
So yeah, it's a bit of a pain. So there's no way for QuickBooks.
Okay, so I've got some friends who are really good with QuickBooks reports. So why don't we see if they have an idea?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I don't know what to do with something, I'm well connected. I usually know who does. All right.
Okay, good. I appreciate. Yeah, that'll be great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we're back to Deborah. We're doing 50% down.
We have about 15 minutes left for this hour-and-a-half session. Would you like to maybe focus on people who have not yet gotten their questions answered? Okay, great, because I know Deborah had a few questions. If you guys have any further questions, I would really suggest you book a session with Jeanne. We do appreciate that you're participating as much as you are, but at some point we would suggest you book a session if you have follow-up questions. Okay, so who is next that hasn't had their question answered?
Well, we have Michael Shelsky. That sounds like a new name.
Awesome.
We're having issues when exporting Fishbowl to QuickBooks. We have experienced multiple file corruption issues over the past several months. We've moved QuickBooks off the server where Fishbowl is, then reinstalled it on the server, etc. Fishbowl says the issue isn't with their system. Question, have you had any clients who've experienced the same issue? Yes. QuickBooks files break, okay? And they break for various reasons. And there are some people who are absolutely fabulous at fixing QuickBooks file corruption or creating new QuickBooks files for you. So they just break, especially if advanced inventory had been turned on in the previous past. Does that help, Michael?
Okay, Michael, you're unmuted.
Thank you. No, I know about, I don't want to fix the QuickBooks file. I want to fix the problem.
But the problem is usually the QuickBooks file has become corrupted.
But we run the rebuild on a regular basis, and we actually started a new QuickBooks file about a year and a half ago. So we have a relatively clean file.
Okay.
Are you saying there's a corruption? Should I run the rebuild before I do an export, maybe?
Well, actually, a rebuild can actually cause the damage in your QuickBooks file. So let's talk about other QuickBooks file maintenance things. Okay. So we have there's something called a TLG file. So do you ever run a backup from inside QuickBooks?
We always run a backup within QuickBooks before doing an export.
Okay, so we shouldn't have any problems there. Do we have, can you look, do you see if you have database file fragments in excess of 50 or 100?
I can do that right now.
Yeah, it's Control 1 or F2.
No, actually, I got 77, it says.
Okay, that's not bad. So what kind of error messages are you getting?
Usually what happens is that when I go to, I will start the export and I'll get a message saying they cannot find the QuickBooks file. And then if I go over to QuickBooks, it'll either abort QuickBooks, or if I try to open QuickBooks, it'll say it cannot, the file's been damaged, run the file doctor, or some message like that. So, and I never do it because the file doctor rarely works. I just restore the backup, and then I go through the process of reconnecting and then run the export again. The last time the Fishbowl person did it was she sort of started from scratch. She launched the Fishbowl server as administrator, then she also launched QuickBooks as administrator just to make sure that it was the same, there wasn't anything in the background that was creating a conflict. That worked fine that time, but then 2 weeks later I ran into an export issue. And Fishbowl says that this export, once you're connected, the Fishbowl nexus should be in place. You shouldn't have to go through the sequence of restarting the Fishbowl server, opening as admin in QuickBooks, and all that stuff. So it's really frustrating. It's like we've gotten down to where we only export once a week on a weekend, and I go through this very sequential process, and it's always like, and the problem, what happens is if the export fails, then Fishbowl thinks it's exportable as data, and it hasn't, so you have to re-export, and you wind up with duplicate transactions, which just creates a nightmare in QuickBooks.
That doesn't sound correct at all.
I know, I'm very frustrated.
I can't, like, I can't fix it right now, but I could look at it.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll reach out to you in the next few weeks or something and talk about that some more, and maybe have you engage you to look at some of just our system setup a bit.
Okay. Now I'm going to go back to Nancy because she's no longer muted. Nancy, let's go to your question.
Okay, so the question that I had was, the person who does our purchasing puts all of the general vouchers and the invoices when they receive on the customer, not on the job of the sub-customer. Is that going to screw up our reporting in QuickBooks?
Right, so you're going to get reporting based upon the customer level. You're not going to get reporting based upon the job level.
Okay, so the only way to do that is for him to do it correctly in QuickBooks, in Fishbowl?
That would help. The other way you can do it is you can move the transaction from the customer to the job, but I wouldn't recommend it. I work on changing his habits.
That's what I thought. It's not a problem with invoices, but with the it's difficult to determine which one, especially if we have multiple jobs under a customer.
All right, could you repeat that? I didn't hear.
It said that's what I do with the invoices. I change them to the correct one, but it's hard to decipher which customer jobs are correct when we have, 10 jobs under a single customer for the other ones. Like sometimes it's general vouchers. What do you call them? General vouchers. I call them general. But general vouchers and any kind of when they do cycle counts or anything, they do it at the top level of the customer, not the job.
Okay. you know, I suppose all you can do is impress upon them that the importance of charging the jobs.
Okay, will do.
You know, that's behavior change more than anything. Okay, what, you guys are still asking questions. Okay. I have a question from Ryan about how my clients feel about the Salesforce integration. For the most part, I don't hear any complaints. I have heard one or two. We also offer a Salesforce integration, so if you need something customized to the way you work, as opposed to the Fishbowl plugin, we can do that.
Okay, very cool.
Okay. So yeah, if you need something customized that Fishbowl doesn't offer, we can do that, and they also will customize some of their plugins as well. Okay. But we'd be happy to quote it if you would like this to. Okay?
Great, thank you.
Okay, so Patricia Cantrell, new name. How do I reach out for information on getting help learning Fishbowl for a person new to Fishbowl and QBO? I have been using QuickBooks Desktop for many years. Okay, Patricia, I have lots of blogs about Fishbowl, especially Fishbowl and QuickBooks together from an accounting point of view. So okay. I suggest reading my blogs and watching my YouTube videos. I'm fairly straightforward. When I do a YouTube video, it's pretty 1, 2, 3. I don't spend a lot of time repeating what I was going to say, et cetera, and so on. So that would be a start. QuickBooks Online is a different beast.
And where do I go? Where do I go? Where do I go to find your blogs?
TARABYTE.com. So that, again, it's terabyte with an A. Spelt funny.
Okay.
It's something to do with my last name being Tarazevtis. You know, okay?
Okay. The thing is just when I try to watch, you know, one of the webinars, it's just a lot of it's so over my head because I'm so new to it, and it just, you know, just gets more confusing.
Well, we have a white paper on how Fishbowl and QuickBooks works together that's free on our website as well.
And also, Jeanne does provide training on Fishbowl and QuickBooks, so you can always book a session to get some training. That's also another resource you can use.
Yeah, I think if I read
and
some of the
Sally
blogs
volunteered
first, I was more educated.
Wiki is pretty good for new users.
Yeah. So the what is?
The Fishbowl Wiki is pretty good for new users.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And their QBO training.
Because I think if I would love to get some personal training with you, but first I think if I read the blog and was more familiar with what to ask instead of wasting your time.
Okay, that sounds good. And now I'm going to go back to Nicole Gresh. A frustration is having to wait for a freight bill to add to a vendor order so that your landed costs are accurate, because if you wait too long, then you cannot do it, all right? So my suggestion is, because the biggest landed costs are when you're doing importing, and we pretty much know how much a container is, right? It's going to be 2,000, 3,000. We might not have it down to the penny, but we have it in the gross dollars. So I create for landed costs a balance sheet account that says accrued landed cost. Then I create a cost of goods sold account that says that's called landed cost discrepancy or landed cost variance. Okay. And then because I want to land my costs more, I guess. Okay. And you're usually pretty good at guessing because, you know, a container is a container is a container. And we know what our custom duties percentages are, you know, unless they're changing the rules on us a lot. So we guesstimate those and go ahead and land our costs. And then when the bills do come in, we go and enter them into the accrued landed cost account. And then any difference between our guess and the bill, we'll just write off to landed cost discrepancy, assuming that they're small dollars. All right, I think we ran out of time. What can I say?
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you very much for viewing this video. And we at Terabyte Solutions are a full-service Fishbowl support firm. So we would like to help you with your Fishbowl issues. Give us a ring at 949-645-1019, and we will be happy to help. Thank you very much. Bye.